So today we're going to be laying down the epoxy in the garage. Let's get going.
Everything that I own leaks, so I wanted to protect this brand new concrete from stains and crap. So today I'm going to show you how I epoxied the floor in my garage so we have a nice surface to start with. So I've done epoxy flooring a few times already. Every time I've done it, I've tried something a little bit different or I learned a new technique. We did a metallic coating twice at my old tattoo shop. Once in the front lobby where we did a light gray base and a dual obsidian top coat. I liked those results, but you could see too much of the light gray base. So when it came time to do the back of the art gallery, I did a black base instead. This made the floors appear a little bit darker. Then in the new tattoo shop in the main lobby, we did the same black base and obsidian top coat. But this time we added a high gloss clear epoxy to finish it off. This made the metallic really deep and extra shiny. Then in the back workshop area at the tattoo shop, we just did a clear epoxy. Here we just cleaned the floors really good and then used the clear coat to seal the floors from new stains and actually lock in the last 70 years of distress and stains that were there already, which left it with a very cool industrial look to the floor that we don't have to worry about messing up while we're back there. Now since this is just a garage, I'm not worried about the floor being a showroom like the tattoo shop, but I also don't want it to look junky like the workshop. Now at the tattoo shop, there's a solid base applied and then 2 different layers of epoxy to get that lava effect. And each of those 2 layers are heavily loaded with metallic pigment. And while this whole process does actually make for a fairly cheap flooring, somewhere around $1 to $2 a square foot, it's still more than I'll really want to spend in the garage. Especially since I'm going to be spilling on it and I'm sure scratching it at some point. So I'm thinking I just want to seal them with a clear epoxy. But since it's not crazy expensive, I'm also considering adding metallic to the clear. This will give some interest to the floor, but I won't be all butthurt when something inevitably scratches it or it has to be repaired somewhere. Now I've also been toying with the idea of some colors instead of black and silver, so let's check out the options.
So what we're going to do is test some samples of some epoxy on this piece of spare concrete that I had from when I built my countertops. What we're going to do is tape it off. I'm going to prep half of it with a dark stain, just something to replicate if I were to stain the concrete black. And we're going to test what the concrete looks like under each one of those scenarios. And then whatever we do, that's what we're going to do in the building. What we're going to do is test these all out on both the tinted dark and on the light gray. Titanium, this one's called Cambridge, which is kind of like a bluish metallic. Titanium is titanium. This one is called gunmetal, which looks almost identical to titanium. I would say the gunmetal has less rainbow to it maybe, and the titanium has a little bit more. And then this is called manatee, and this has almost a tannish and kind of goldish pigment in it, or metallic to it. So we're going to do those in these 4 squares. I'm going to use this last one with nothing and just a clear coat with nothing in it. And then these 2 and this one and this little one here, I'm going to mix up a couple of them and just kind of see what we get out of it. Some sort of a 2-part, so this is the hardener, part B. Some resin, that's the part A, another part A. Alright, so here's our test. I know this all looks crazy right now, but this is the Cambridge and the manatee. This is just regular clear, but we spilled some other colors in there. This is just the manatee by itself, and then heavier and lighter on the edges. This is gunmetal by itself. This is the Cambridge by itself. We sprayed some alcohol in this to see what happened. And then this is the titanium by itself, which has a lot of refined metallic and rainbow colors in it. And this is manatee. I changed it. Instead of Cambridge and titanium, it's actually titanium and manatee together. And again, this is just to kind of test and see what it looks like with some slightly different pearlescence in it. Let this cure up and see what it looks like.
So I ended up going with the titanium pigment. After seeing the sample colors, as much as I liked how some of the blues looked, I think it's just going to be too distracting on the floor since I'm not really going with a heavy pigment load. So let's stick with what we know, just a basic titanium metallic. Now this is a little bit warmer than the obsidian that I did in the shop, and it has a little bit of that rainbow tone to it, but it's a different brand, so I think it's the closest I could get. The gunmetal was really close, but I think it's just going to be too dark. And after seeing the samples, I don't think I need to stain the floor black first. So first things first, let's clean the floor. I go ahead and pressure clean the entire garage. Then I give the floor a full week to dry before we start the epoxy. First, I'm going to sweep out any remaining dust.
So I purchased 6 3-gallon kits from Color Epoxies. We're going to mix in a metallic with it that we tested out on a little sample piece of concrete. And my wife's going to help me. We're going to get mixing and going. So the way this floor breaks out, it looks like there are 6 squares. So the approximate way that we're going to mix this up is every one of those kits, so 2 gallons, has to do, so 1 gallon on each one of these little pads.
Let me explain that a little better. The expansion cuts on the slab create 12 equal squares. The epoxy kits are 6 3-gallon kits that I purchased. But each kit is like 2 gallons of resin and 1 gallon of hardener. So you're going to split the hardener into a half gallon for each. That's going to give you 12 buckets, each containing about 1.5 gallons of epoxy. So basically you have to walk around on these spiky shoe add-ons so you don't leave footprints. They velcro to your shoes and it feels like you're constantly walking on ice. Be careful or you are going to end up on your ass when you're wearing these. They also make some great noises too. Now these are going to allow you to walk back and forth on the wet epoxy, and any marks that you leave are quickly swallowed up as it self-levels. I wonder if I can just use golf cleats instead of these dumb things. I purchased 4 16-ounce pigments, which gave me 64 ounces. I was figuring on putting about 4 ounces in each one. So the process is going to work like this. Amanda is going to mix up a bucket of epoxy with the 2-to-1 ratio. 1 gallon of part A to a half gallon of part B. Like I said, at first we matched it out to about 4 ounces per bucket, but then we slowly started upping the pigment load as we went on because we realized we had so much extra, and it made it a little bit more dense. More on this later. She would then paint in the edges with a brush so I don't have to be too precise with the roller. Then she'd splash out a ribbon or a blob on the floor, and I'd start rolling it out. Rinse and repeat. Now this can be done with a roller or a squeegee, but I've only done this with a roller, so I just went with that. But you really are using it like a squeegee to just move the material around, and then you're back rolling over it to level it all out. The great thing about this process, and the slightly scary thing, is that each of these batches only have about a 45-minute to 1-hour pot life, and after that it's going to start to harden and be a problem to roll out. So no matter what, you're probably going to be done in under 6 hours, or you're going to have some problems. All in all, I think this only took us about 2.5 hours to knock out the whole 2,400 square feet. It goes pretty quick once you have your rhythm down. An extra set of hands would have been useful too, but really it's not necessary. Okay, so the flooring is all done. As it cures, these little flat roller marks will actually disappear. So now we're just waiting on it to cure up. Should be about 7 or 8 hours or so. Made a huge mess, but otherwise it's looking pretty awesome. It got much darker on this side because we started using more metallic pigment, but that's okay. I'm all right with that. And get these doors lowered down because it might rain soon. So hopefully there's no leaks in this guy.
So we're going to check on the building. It rained last night right after we did the epoxy. So hopefully we didn't have any intrusions of water. Let's see if we're dry enough here to walk on. I'm gonna go running on it right now, but let's get these doors open and see what this looks like. So we're still dribbling a little bit out here, rain, so we're just gonna get a quick look at this. Looks like everything was good. We didn't get any water anywhere.
This dick thought he was gonna climb in here.
Floors look awesome. It's like a cloudy, metallic, blacky craziness. I didn't have a chance to get this tape up, so I'm gonna probably have to just cut it and score it and make sure we don't chip up any epoxy when I do that. Otherwise, it came out pretty awesome.
Now I did have one tiny spot that didn't cure up all the way. I think it either didn't get a full mix of part B or something else caused an issue. So when I came in a couple days later to check the status of the floor, there was one sticky spot. But no worries, I used a little bit of denatured alcohol and some xylene and scraped it right up. I'll just re-pour one of the sample kits I have into that missing area and you'll never notice. So it's probably hard to tell as I walk across the garage, but there's a slight color or density shift in the flooring. From the side where we started, it's a little more solid and black, and over on the other side, it's a little lighter, and you can see a little bit more of the texture and color of the concrete through the epoxy. We have a little bit of an ombre going on here. Now that was because we increased the amount of pigment in the mix by the time we got to the 4th bucket, and then we upped it again by the time we got to the 8th bucket. So it's kind of a gradual change, and it's nothing super abrupt. And honestly, those first 4 squares are actually going to be sectioned off and turned into an air-conditioned room, so you're never really going to be able to notice the transition. And overall, I'm super happy with how this came out. In my opinion, this is definitely an easy DIY project, especially with fresh concrete. But even in an existing garage with the right prep, this should be pretty easy. So the next project in the garage is going to be insulation, and then we're going to be on to electrical. Then I can finally start putting some cars in here. So thank you again for watching. If you have any questions about what I did here on the floors, please comment below. I pretty much answer every question. Please like and subscribe and hit the notification because I have a video coming very soon to explain where one of my cars went. I had another car in an accident and you will not believe what happened this time. Also, please check out the Ink and Pistons merch store. There's a link in the description below. I appreciate you watching and see you in the next one.